So we have a mission in town that's a huge facility in a sense, that or I should say the largest facility caring for the homeless in our fair city. And one of the things we've been trying to do over the course of the last few years is care for the homeless population in this town. Eugene has a very solid record of a section of the citizenry in this town who really care about the homeless and are very active on their behalf. It's very kind, particularly because, you know, they tend to be the most forsaken population in our midst. You can see that with the current refugee crisis, and we're going to see a great many more homeless people, I think, in this country, particularly as climate chaos arrives on so many parts of this country and people start to move. So what we have basically began doing about 3 years ago was moving into an industrial site at the Mission here. The Mission is quite large. It covers, I think, about 6 or 7 acres, and part of it was this old sort of oil storage place. And we began sort of taking the land over there to turn it into a garden. And I had sort of the idea to put in an orchard there a little while ago, and for complicated reasons, one of the things that we're sort of doing is bringing quite a high degree of ecological sophistication to the effort. Just because we are caring for a deeply marginalised constituency in our midst doesn't mean that we can't basically bring the best we have to the story. So one of the big issues that we were dealing with right from the start was the fact that a lot of the Mission residents are dentally challenged. Dental care in this country, particularly if you're poor and homeless, can be a real issue. So immediately what we were looking for were types of tree fruit and types of varieties within those categories of tree fruit that were easy for people with poor teeth or no teeth to eat. So a heavy focus on pears, heavy focus on plums, cherries to a degree. Yes, we've got some apples in there, but for the most part we're really trying to get the type of fruit that they can readily eat fresh in their little Garden of Eden. This is a sort of a classic example of the type of tree we're going for. We have access to the USDA's pear germplasm repository in Corvallis, which is about an hour to the north of Eugene. They've got 1,000 named cultivars there, the vast majority of which never really see the light of day outside of the repository. It's a pretty complicated story, but the loss of diversity in pears is probably greater than the loss of diversity in certainly any other tree crop, maybe any other crop in total in terms of the number of varieties that are grown. Probably maybe 6 varieties account for over 95% of all the pears that are grown in the States. But there are vast numbers of pears that are spectacular and that work really, really well sort of at the homestead level. This is a classic example. This tree is called Ayers, and this comes out of, I think, the Tennessee Agriculture Experiment Station. I think it was released in 1954. It's incredibly disease resistant. And I spent a few years tooling around the USDA pear germplasm repository in Corvallis, and in August, I mean, vast numbers of pears are coming on. It's sort of the high point of the season, and it gets a little difficult to sort of tell trees apart in terms of the quality because there's just so much there. And even then, this tree is a total standout. The fruit is exquisite. It's this beautiful sort of gold, reddish, speckled fruit, taste of a seckle. It's a Garbarangou cross. I mean, it's spectacular, incredibly prolific tree. You don't see it in the trade because the fruit's too small and it doesn't ship well. But as a pear tree, it's astonishing. So that's one of the things that we're sort of able to do when we start working on a more of a heart-centered and ecological basis, as distinct from a bottom line economic basis, is we can really find the right fits. Here we've got a tree that's one of the great sort of pear standouts in all the years I've spent moving among 1,000 or so cultivars. and it's perfectly suited for the residents of the mission. So this will be going into the ground tomorrow.